On July 20th, 1944, deep inside Hitler's secret headquarters in East Prussia, a bomb explodes with devastating force. The blast tears through a wooden conference room, sending splinters flying like bullets and filling the space with choking smoke. When the dust settles, several men lie dead or dying, but Adolf Hitler walks out alive, his clothes torn and hair singed. This is the story of Operation Valkyrie, the closest anyone ever came to killing the Nazi dictator and ending World War II years early. By summer 1944, Germany is losing the war on every front. In the West, American and British forces have landed in Normandy and are pushing through France, liberating towns and villages. In the East, the Soviet Red Army is crushing German defenses and driving toward Berlin with overwhelming force. German cities burn under constant Allied bombing raids that come day and night. Millions of German soldiers have been killed, wounded, or captured. The war Hitler promised would bring glory has instead brought death and destruction. Many German officers can see Germany cannot win, and they know Hitler refuses to accept reality or negotiate peace. These officers also know about the Holocaust, the systematic mass murder of Jews and other innocent people that will forever stain Germany's name in history. Some have seen the death camps with their own eyes. Others have read reports or heard stories from soldiers. They know that every day the war continues. Thousands more innocent people are being murdered. They know Germany's defeat is certain, but the longer the war continues, the more complete that defeat will be. Inside this desperate situation, a group of German army officers decides the only way to save their country is to kill Hitler and make peace with the Allies before Germany is completely destroyed. These aren't cowards or simple traitors. Many are decorated war heroes who have served Germany for decades. They include generals, colonels, and politicians who once believed in their country but have watched in horror as Hitler has led Germany to ruin. At the center of this conspiracy is Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg, a 36-year-old officer who has already sacrificed more than most. Stauffenberg is a career army officer from an old aristocratic family. He's tall, handsome, and charismatic, the kind of leader men naturally want to follow. But Stauffenberg is also terribly wounded. While fighting in North Africa the year before, his vehicle hit a mine during an Allied air attack. The explosion cost him his left eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left hand. He wears a black eye patch and uses special pliers to help his remaining 3 fingers grip objects. Despite these wounds, he's returned to duty, and the army has promoted him to a position that gives him regular access to Hitler's headquarters. His injuries make him seem less threatening, but they hide a fierce determination. Stauffenberg believes it's his duty to kill Hitler, even if it costs his own life. Working with Stauffenberg are dozens of other conspirators spread throughout the German military and government. General Friedrich Olbricht controls important army units in Berlin. General Ludwig Beck, a former chief of staff, will take over as head of state after Hitler's death. Colonel Henning von Treschow has been planning to kill Hitler for years. General Erwin von Witzleben will command the armed forces. There are also politicians like Karl Goerdeler, who will form a new government. These men meet in secret, communicate in code, and live every day, knowing that if they're discovered, they and their families will be tortured and executed. The plan they develop is called Operation Valkyrie. It's both simple and incredibly complex. Stauffenberg will bring a bomb into a meeting with Hitler and leave it there to explode. After Hitler's death, the conspirators will use an existing emergency plan, also called Valkyrie, which was designed to put down potential uprisings. They'll activate this plan and tell army units across Germany that Hitler is dead and that Nazi party leaders have tried to stage a coup. The army will then arrest all SS and Nazi party officials, take control of communications, and negotiate peace with the Allies. The stakes couldn't be higher. If the plot succeeds, it might end the war early and save millions of lives. both German and Allied. It might also save Jews and other prisoners still alive in concentration camps. For Germany, it might mean a chance to negotiate a peace that leaves the country intact. But if the plot fails, the conspirators know they'll die horrible deaths, and Hitler's revenge will be terrible. The Gestapo will hunt down every conspirator and likely torture and kill thousands of innocent people in the process. In the weeks before July 20th, Stauffenberg makes several attempts to kill Hitler, but each one fails. The first attempt happens on July 11th, when Stauffenberg flies to Hitler's headquarters with a bomb in his briefcase. The plan is to kill not just Hitler, but also Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring. But Himmler doesn't show up to the meeting, and the conspirators decide they need to kill all three men at once. Stauffenberg leaves without setting off the bomb. 4 days later, on July 15th, Stauffenberg tries again. This time, he actually arms the bomb in a bathroom before the meeting, mixing the chemicals that will cause it to explode in 10 minutes. His hands shake as he does this delicate work with only 3 fingers. But again, neither Himmler nor Göring are present. When Stauffenberg calls Berlin for instructions, the other conspirators tell him to abort. He has to quickly disarm the bomb and hide the evidence, his heart pounding the entire time. These failures are taking a toll on everyone involved. Every time Stauffenberg travels to Hitler's headquarters, he risks being discovered. Every phone call between conspirators might be overheard. Every delay gives the Gestapo more time to uncover the plot. Some conspirators are starting to lose their nerve, wondering if their plan is cursed. Others are becoming more desperate, arguing that they should kill Hitler regardless of whether the other Nazi leaders are present. Time is running out. The Gestapo is investigating suspicious activities among German officers, and they're getting closer to the truth. On the morning of July 20th, Stauffenberg wakes up knowing this will be his last chance. He's been summoned to a meeting at Hitler's headquarters that afternoon, and he knows he can't back out again. He says goodbye to his wife and 4 children, though he can't tell them what he's about to do. His wife is pregnant with their 5th child. He packs his briefcase with papers and reports, but hidden among them are 2 bombs. Each bomb weighs about 2 pounds and is made of British plastic explosive. The bombs are designed to be set off by crushing a small glass vial of acid, which then eats through a thin wire, which then releases a spring-loaded firing pin. The process takes about 10 minutes. Stauffenberg drives to the military airfield and boards a plane for the 3-hour flight to East Prussia. Accompanying him is his aide, Lieutenant Werner von Heften, who knows about the plot and is carrying additional supplies. During the flight, Stauffenberg reviews his papers and probably prays. He's a religious man who believes God will judge him for what he's about to do, but he also believes that killing Hitler is the right thing to do. He thinks about his wife and children. He thinks about the millions who will die if the war continues. He thinks about the Jews being murdered in death camps. And he thinks about the Germany he loves, and how Hitler has turned it into something monstrous. The plane lands at the airfield near Hitler's headquarters around noon. The headquarters, called the Wolf's Lair, is located in a dark forest of tall pine trees. It's a sprawling complex of concrete bunkers, wooden barracks, guard posts, minefields, and barbed wire fences. Stauffenberg and Heften are driven through multiple security checkpoints, their papers checked repeatedly by SS guards. The briefcase with the bombs passes inspection, because these guards have seen Stauffenberg many times before. Besides, who would suspect this wounded war hero of planning to kill the Führer? Stauffenberg is told the meeting will start at 12:30, half an hour earlier than originally scheduled. This is because Hitler wants to finish in time to greet Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. The schedule change creates immediate problems. Stauffenberg needs time to set up both bombs, but now he's rushed. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel keeps hurrying him along, saying the Führer is waiting. Stauffenberg asks permission to change his shirt because it's a hot summer day. This is a ruse to get access to a private room where he can arm the bombs. In a small bathroom, Stauffenberg and Heften work frantically to prepare the bombs. With only 3 fingers, Stauffenberg struggles with the delicate work of crushing the acid vials and inserting the detonators. Heften helps him, but they're constantly worried someone will walk in. They manage to arm 1 bomb, but before they can arm the second, there's a knock on the door. Keitel's adjutant is telling them to hurry up. Stauffenberg makes a split-second decision. 1 bomb will have to be enough. He closes his briefcase and walks out, leaving the second bomb with Heften. As they walk toward the meeting room, Stauffenberg knows the bomb will explode in about 8 to 10 minutes. Stauffenberg enters the conference room at approximately 12:35, carrying death in his briefcase. The room is located in a wooden barrack building rather than one of the underground concrete bunkers where Hitler usually holds meetings. This is because of the hot summer weather. This seemingly minor detail will save Hitler's life. In a concrete bunker, the bomb's blast would bounce off the walls and ceiling, concentrating its deadly force. In this wooden building with windows, much of the blast will escape harmlessly. Adolf Hitler stands in the middle of one side of a large, heavy oak table, leaning forward with his hands on the surface, studying reports from the Eastern Front. He's 55 years old, but looks older, his hair gray, his hands trembling from what might be Parkinson's disease. He wears his usual simple military uniform. When Stauffenberg enters, Hitler barely glances up. Keitel makes a brief introduction, and Stauffenberg moves closer, placing his briefcase on the floor under the table, less than 6 feet from where Hitler stands. Inside that briefcase, acid is eating through a thin wire, second by second. Stauffenberg straightens up and starts to deliver his report, but his mind is counting the minutes. He knows he has maybe 5 or 6 minutes before the bomb explodes. His chance to leave comes within a minute when an aide enters and whispers that there's an urgent phone call from Berlin. This call is prearranged, a fake emergency designed to give Stauffenberg a reason to leave. He apologizes and walks quickly toward the door. As Stauffenberg leaves, he glances back one last time at Hitler leaning over the table. In a few minutes, that man will be dead, and the war will begin to end. Stauffenberg walks outside into the bright summer sunlight. He finds Heften waiting with their staff car, and they climb in, telling the driver to take them to the airfield immediately. As they drive away, they have to pass through several security checkpoints. At each one, Stauffenberg expects to be stopped, but nothing happens. The guards check their passes and wave them through. At exactly 12:42, 7 minutes after Stauffenberg placed the briefcase under the table, the bomb explodes with a devastating roar. The blast is enormous, far louder than anything the guards and staff in the area have ever heard. The windows of the conference building blow out in a shower of glass. The roof lifts up and parts of it collapse inward. Thick smoke pours from the shattered windows. Flames lick at the wooden walls. Men come running from all directions. Guards with guns drawn, officers shouting questions. For a few moments, no one knows what happened. The confusion is total and terrifying. Inside the conference room, the scene is one of absolute carnage. The explosion has turned the room into hell. 4 men are dead or dying, their bodies torn apart by the blast. Others are wounded, bleeding from cuts caused by flying splinters of wood that acted like shrapnel. The heavy oak table is split and splintered. Papers are on fire. The ceiling has partially collapsed. Smoke fills the room, making it hard to see or breathe. Men are crying out in pain, calling for help. The smell of explosives and burning wood and blood fills the air. It looks like no one could have survived. But incredibly, Adolf Hitler is alive. He's stumbling toward the door, his uniform torn and smoking, his hair singed, his eardrums damaged by the blast, his right arm injured and hanging limp. His pants are shredded and his legs are burned and cut. But he's conscious and mobile and very much alive. The heavy oak table absorbed much of the blast force that would otherwise have struck Hitler. Even more importantly, another officer, Colonel Heinz Brandt, had moved Stauffenberg's briefcase just moments after the colonel left. Brandt wanted to get closer to the map, and the briefcase was in his way, so he pushed it with his foot to the far side of the heavy wooden support. This meant the thick oak support stood between the bomb and Hitler when it detonated. Brandt himself is mortally wounded, but his actions saved Hitler's life. Hitler emerges from the burning building, and within minutes, the entire Wolf's Lair knows the Führer has survived an assassination attempt. His personal guards surround him, guns drawn, looking for the assassin. Hitler is taken to his quarters, where his doctor treats his wounds. He's in shock, but also in a strange state of elation. He believes that Providence has saved him once again. His paranoia, already extreme, now becomes total. Someone in his inner circle just tried to kill him, and he will find out who and make them pay. Meanwhile, Stauffenberg and Heften are driving toward the airfield through the forest. They hear the explosion, a distant crump that sounds like thunder. Stauffenberg allows himself a moment of satisfaction. The bomb worked. Hitler must be dead. No one could survive a blast like that. They reach the first checkpoint outside the complex, and the guard has already received orders to lock down the area. But Stauffenberg speaks with absolute authority, telling the guard he has urgent orders to fly back to Berlin immediately. The guard hesitates, then salutes and raises the barrier. The same thing happens at the next checkpoint. At the airfield, their plane is waiting with engines running. Stauffenberg and Heften climb aboard, and within minutes, they're airborne, flying west toward Berlin. During the flight, they throw the second bomb out of the plane. Stauffenberg uses the plane's radio to contact the conspirators in Berlin, telling them the bomb has exploded and Hitler must be dead. He gives the code word that means Operation Valkyrie should now begin. Then he sits back for the long flight, probably feeling exhausted and relieved. He's done his part. Now the others must do theirs. But even as Stauffenberg's plane flies toward Berlin, the plan is already falling apart at the Wolf's Lair. Hitler is not dead. He's wounded, but very much alive and giving orders. The SS and Gestapo are beginning their investigation, checking everyone who was at the meeting. They quickly determine that Stauffenberg placed a briefcase under the table and then left just before the explosion. They try to contact the airfield, but Stauffenberg's plane is already gone. They send out alerts to arrest him as soon as he lands. The window of opportunity is already closing. Stauffenberg's plane lands in Berlin around 4 o'clock, more than 3 hours after the explosion. He immediately calls the conspiracy headquarters at the Bendler block, expecting to hear that Operation Valkyrie is in full swing. Instead, he learns that almost nothing has happened. The other conspirators have been paralyzed by confusion and fear. Some have heard reports that Hitler survived. Others have heard that he's dead. No one knows what to believe, so they've done nothing, wasting precious hours. Stauffenberg is furious. He insists Hitler must be dead and that they need to activate Valkyrie immediately. For the next few hours, Stauffenberg and his fellow conspirators make a last desperate attempt to complete their coup. They send out orders to army units across Germany and occupied Europe, telling them the SS has attempted a coup, that Hitler is dead, and that the army is now in charge. They order the arrest of SS and Nazi party officials. In some cities, these orders are followed. In Paris, the German military governor arrests 1,200 SS and Gestapo personnel. But in Berlin, where the coup needs to succeed, things go wrong. The army units are confused about what they're supposed to do. Their commanders receive conflicting information. The confusion reaches a crisis point when Hitler himself goes on the radio. Late that night, his voice crackles across German airwaves, unmistakably alive, announcing that he survived a treacherous assassination attempt by criminal officers. He promises that every conspirator will be hunted down and killed along with their families. The psychological impact is devastating to the coup. German officers who might have joined now know it has failed. Army units stand down. The conspirators in the Bendler block realize they're doomed. Around midnight, soldiers loyal to Hitler surround the Bendler block. There's a brief standoff, then forces burst into the building. They find Stauffenberg and other key conspirators trying to destroy evidence. There's a short exchange of gunfire, and Stauffenberg is shot in the shoulder. The conspirators are quickly overwhelmed and arrested. The commanding officer, General Friedrich Fromm, who had known about the plot but refused to join, now tries to prove his loyalty by ordering the immediate execution of the main conspirators. Just after midnight, in the courtyard of the Bendler block, Stauffenberg and 3 other conspirators are taken before a makeshift firing squad. There are no formal charges, no trial, just a quick military execution. Stauffenberg is badly wounded, barely able to stand. They prop him up against the wall. In the darkness, lit by vehicle headlights, the 4 men face the firing squad. Stauffenberg's last words are reportedly, "Long live sacred Germany." Then the shots ring out, and the leader of the plot falls dead. His body is quickly buried in a nearby cemetery. But Hitler's revenge doesn't end there. The next day, the Gestapo digs up the bodies, burns them, and scatters the ashes so there can be no grave or shrine. The failed assassination triggers the most brutal purge in Nazi Germany's history. Hitler unleashes the Gestapo and SS to hunt down everyone connected to the plot. Over the next several months, nearly 5,000 people are arrested. About 200 are executed after show trials, where they're humiliated, denied lawyers, and sentenced to death. Many are hanged slowly with piano wire from meat hooks, while cameras film their deaths so Hitler can watch. The executions are deliberately made as painful as possible. Entire families are arrested under the Nazi principle of blood guilt. Wives, children, parents, and siblings of the conspirators are sent to concentration camps. Some are never seen again. The purge extends beyond the actual conspirators to include anyone the Nazis suspect of disloyalty. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the famous Desert Fox, is forced to commit suicide because of his connections to the plot. Dozens of other generals and thousands of lower-ranking officers are dismissed, imprisoned, or executed. The Wehrmacht is brought completely under Nazi party control. Any remaining independence in the military is destroyed. Hitler's paranoia becomes so extreme that he trusts almost no one, which actually hampers the German war effort even more in the final months. The failed assassination of Adolf Hitler on July 20th, 1944, had immediate and tragic consequences for Germany and the world. The war continued for another 10 months, months in which millions more people died. The Holocaust continued, and hundreds of thousands more Jews and other prisoners were murdered in gas chambers. German cities continued to be bombed into rubble. The Soviet army advanced into Germany with terrible vengeance. Some historians estimate that more than half of all German military casualties in World War II occurred after July 20th, 1944. All these deaths might have been prevented if Stauffenberg's bomb had killed Hitler. For decades after the war, the legacy of the July 20th plotters was complicated and controversial in Germany. Some Germans viewed them as heroes who tried to save their country from Hitler's madness. Others viewed them as traitors who stabbed German soldiers in the back while they were still fighting. The fact that most conspirators had served Hitler loyally for years made them morally complicated figures. It wasn't until the 1960s and 70s that West Germany fully recognized the conspirators as resistance fighters and heroes. Today, the Bendler Block building houses the German Resistance Memorial Center, and a plaque in the courtyard marks the spot where Stauffenberg died. In America and other Allied countries, the July 20th plot received mixed reactions. Some Allied leaders were disappointed it failed because they believed killing Hitler might shorten the war. Others were suspicious of the conspirators' motives, believing they only turned against Hitler because Germany was losing. The Allies had already committed to demanding Germany's unconditional surrender, so it's unclear whether they would have negotiated with a new German government even if the coup had succeeded. This question remains one of history's great what-ifs. The story of Claus von Stauffenberg and Operation Valkyrie has been told in numerous books, movies, and documentaries over the decades. The most famous recent portrayal is the 2008 film Valkyrie starring Tom Cruise as Stauffenberg. These retellings have helped introduce new generations to the story of Germans who resisted Hitler from within. The plot's failure reminds us that even brave and well-planned attempts to stop evil can fail due to bad luck and circumstances beyond anyone's control. It also raises profound moral questions about duty, loyalty, and when it becomes necessary to betray one's own government for a higher cause. Today, July 20th is remembered in Germany as a day of both tragedy and honor. The conspirators failed to kill Hitler or stop the war, but they proved that not all Germans supported the Nazis, that some were willing to risk and sacrifice everything to do what they believed was right. Their courage in the face of certain death remains inspiring. Stauffenberg's final words, "Long live sacred Germany," expressed his love for a Germany that wasn't defined by Hitler's evil, but by higher ideals of justice, honor, and humanity. That Germany was what the conspirators were trying to save. Their failure cost them everything, but their attempt ensured that Germany's history would include not just those who followed Hitler to the end, but also those few brave souls who tried to stop him, even when success seemed impossible and death was certain.